All right, hold up, wait a minute, because we about to bless y'all with some things. If you not sit down, if you don't have your drink with you, you better go get it right now before we move on. Team No Sleep, November 15th. Montel Allen to the side of me. How you living, brother?
Man, blessed as usual, man. Give God thanks first, man. I got 10 toes down on the ground.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you repping some gear today. You got your
Actually, I'm
SDFNL
repping,
on.
I'm repping my man Hardy Nickerson, Leggett Whiteside, and them at Bishop O'Dowd High School in Oakland. This is their
Man,
colors right there. High
okay.
school. My man Hardy Nickerson. I think he played in the same time as what I guess. I think they played kind of against, maybe even against each other. I believe so. But representing him, good friends of mine. Just want to get him a big shout out. I know they're out of the playoffs, but they still good. Um, we rolling, man. Oh, shout out to my son too, Montel Jr. They just finished their season at University of Chicago. They went 6-4. His defense outdoed the number one defense in all of Division 3. My son's a DC, so big shout out to him and a great win.
Love it, man. Man, them Allen boys out there doing big work, doing good work. So that's good stuff, man. We got
Yes, sir.
Senior in the building. The show is officially on, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, you got your drink with you. Let's do this, man. We got a full show. We got our stories too, but we got a guest behind the scenes that we have to bring on, and we have to have discussion with him about. So I don't know the best way to do this is just say, man, I could go down the accolades. I could go down the list of things that this man has done in his career. You know, we could talk about 17 years in the NFL. We could talk about. I got to look at all the stuff right here. Bart Starr Award. Not everyone gets the Bart Starr Award. I mean, that's fancy. You know, I'm trying to find another word for it, but that's high end right there. That's come on, not everybody gets that. Number one pick in the first round. Huh? Not just he didn't just get picked in the first round. When they called this man's name, when the draft started, he was the first one called. Was it 84? I can't remember. He gonna correct me if I was wrong. But 2 times All Pro, Player of the Week, 850 some receptions, 84 receiving touchdowns. The list goes on, and I would be remiss if I didn't let this man come on and do it himself. Shout out, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Irving Fryar is in the building. Come on now, let me sit up straight.
What's going on, fellas?
What's happening?
Sir, good to see you.
Uh-oh. We looked like we were frozen there for a second.
No, we don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, no, it froze on my end for a second. It wasn't frozen for you? Okay.
No, we always good, and we good. Listen, okay. Mr. Fryar's in the building. Listen, I gave just the 35,000 foot level accolades, and folks in the sporting world, in the football world, anyone who was a Redskin fan, anyone who was a Patriots fan, Dolphins, right? They know you. They know the name. Uh-huh. But there's a handful of folks, and our audience is very diverse. Give the folks just that elevator pitch. Who we're gonna put that respect on the name too? That Dr. Irving Fryar is from a sporting perspective, and where you are today, sir, if you don't mind.
Okay. First of all,
we got all the time in the world too. We got all kind of time.
Listen, first of all, I appreciate you having me on your show. This is awesome. Brother Hicks, Brother Allen, it's just a pleasure. For those of you who don't recognize my name is Irving Fryar. I am a former NFL wide receiver. I was born and raised in Mount Holly, New Jersey. I attended college at the University of Nebraska. I was a wingback. Spent 4 years there as an All-American. A couple of years, my junior and senior year. Was drafted in 1984. I was the first player taken in the draft, the first time a wide receiver, wingback. They drafted me as a wide receiver. I played wingback in college, but they drafted me as a wide receiver. First time a wide receiver was drafted, number 1 overall in the NFL draft by the New England Patriots. Spent 9 years with the Patriots, 3 years after that with the Dolphins, 3 years after that with the Philadelphia Eagles, and 2 years after that with the Washington, which was at that time the Redskins. 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, 17 years in the league. And the award that I'm most proud of happened just recently on November 2nd. I was inducted into the Philly Sports Hall of Fame, which was
Yes, you
great
were.
for me because it's for me it's an affirmation of what I've been able to accomplish on the field, but it's a reaffirmation of me as a person. I've had some ups and downs and challenges. It would be an understatement for me to say the last 8 years of my life have been difficult. They've been a fight, but that's what life is. Life is a fight. That's what I said in my induction speech. Life is a fight. We have to deal with ups and downs. No one's exempt to tribulation or trials in our lives. And it's a challenge sometimes for us to hold on to our faith. We have to fight for our faith. We have to keep believing that things, no matter how bad they may be, no matter how rough it may get, we have to keep believing and hoping and trusting that things are going to get better. And sometimes when we're in the midst of that battle, it's tough to hold on to our faith. And that faith is to believe that, yes, God is in control and that he is going to get us through this thing. But here I am. And the award is kind of a crown for me. And it's very enlightening for me. And it's I'm very appreciative of it.
Love it. Appreciate that. And y'all can probably recognize
Did I say enough?
that.
Did I say enough?
I was going to say that doctor, as y'all can probably recognize, the doctor in theology. Because you see, we going to have church tonight. And so bring ye all ye tithes.
You're not going to put one of those clips up there, are you? Are you going to put that clip up there?
I told you I got some surprises for you at the minute. So we just hold steady, hold still. But you went there, and I got the picture up here right now. Let's go ahead and talk about that, because that is really that crowning moment, a crowning moment, right? In terms of recognition of being inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. And I see we got my man Marvin Stark on the line here, diehard Eagles fan, diehard. The man bleeds green. Well, he bleeds purple for Prince, but everything else is green.
I got a little purple on too. I got a little purple Mike.
Talk to us a little bit about this piece right here.
Well, I said a minute ago that it's an affirmation of what I've been able to accomplish on the field, and a reaffirmation of me as a person. You know, about I want to say it was 2015. I went to prison for a conspiracy because I was connected to someone who was doing some illegal stuff, and the state convinced the jury that I was involved with it. So I ended up spending some time in prison. And when I went to prison, man, I was a pastor at the time. I was married at the time. There was, things were good for me at the time, but everything went downhill. And I eventually, after spending that time in prison, my wife at the time, she divorced me after 28 years. People in the church left, obviously. And I lost everything, pretty much lost everything. So when I got out of prison at the age of 53, I had to start all over again. And it took me, literally, it took me about really 5 or 6 years to really come out of a bad headspace, to come out of a dark place that I was in. There was numerous reasons why I was in that dark place. I was very angry. I was very disappointed. I felt like a fool because I found out one of the hardest pills in this whole experience to swallow was the fact that I found out there were a bunch of people that really meant a lot to me. And I found out I didn't mean anything to them. And I was living my life like that with these people around me, thinking that the relationship that I thought we had was reciprocal, and it wasn't. And that was a really, really, really hard pill to swallow. So, and I said this in my induction speech, is that, probably when my name was brought up, because, we're trying to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. Probably when my name was brought up, someone on the committee said no, but somebody else who was there fought for me. They said yes, and they fought hard enough that I was able to get in. And I appreciate people like that, because that's my crew, the crew that I have. And I said this in my induction speech as well. When you go through hell, when you're catching it, and when the smoke clears, you look up, the people that are left over, that's your crew. When people leave you, they dog you, they walk away from you. When the smoke clears, the sun is shining again, the people that are left over, that's your crew. And that's what those who inducted me, who voted for me, that's what they represent. And the people in my life, like yourself, Brother Hicks, are the people that I'm very much appreciative of. I got a small crew. You only need a few in your crew.
Come on now.
A few people thoroughly immersed and committed are a far greater asset than thousands with lukewarm enthusiasm. So you only need a few people in your crew. You don't need to have a whole lot of people.
Mm.
But yeah, this award for me really was I'm very, very appreciative of it, because it puts me back in a good headspace, because now I know that people do see me for who I am and what I've been able to accomplish, and what they think happened, or what they may have heard about what happened. They're not necessarily holding that against me.
I love that. And appreciate you for being transparent and sharing that. Listen, I got to run a show.
Oh, it's the story, bro. That's the story. I can't
No, and you know
I
what?
can't beat around the bush.
And the story, so I was going to say, I got to run a show. We probably not even going to get into that, because we want to be respectful and cognizant of the time. And you got some things that we should probably talk about. And I know Montel is chomping at the bit. But I was going to close the show tonight with the statement of saying your life should be a miniseries, should be on Netflix, or should be on HBO, just for, again, the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations. I'm calling it the comeback story. When you got on that stage in Philadelphia last week or 2 weeks ago and picked up that plaque and was inducted, that right there, when I saw it, and I, again, third person removed, set other things in motion. Because you and I have even talked about some other things, some other blessings that are coming, some other things that are starting to happen just a little more regularly. And I can almost guarantee you somebody in Ohio is saying, okay.
Well, why don't you do it? You have the capabilities of doing
listen,
it. Why don't you do it?
We didn't reach out to a gang of folks, and we know ESPN watches our show. I can guarantee you, because I'll go to the gym in an hour and I'll hear ESPN radio saying the exact same show, the exact same topics that we talk. So we'll take care of that. We'll go offline on that. Montel, go on.
Wait a minute. You work out at nighttime? We talked about this before, man.
I do, man. Listen,
how in the world do you work out at nighttime?
That's why I'm still drinking coffee. This is not cognac this time.
I live in the nighttime too. That's the best time to live, is in the night.
What we do, brother.
No, man. I'm in the gym at 5 a.m. I'm done. I work out for an hour. I do CrossFit training. I'm done at 6 a.m. Man, I got to get it done first thing in the morning. If I don't do it first thing in the morning, my day is so busy and I use my mind so much, I'm worn out by the end of the day.
Well, stay up.
I'm the opposite. I'm working all day, and then I want to tire my mind out by the end of the night. I want to make sure I burn all those electrons, neutrons firing up. I want to burn all that off so I can go have a nice good sleep, so I don't have to worry about everything when I go.
Let me ask y'all something. Are y'all married?
Married,
yes.
2 kids.
Okay, well, you got a wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you burn all that off with your wife.
Well, see, there we go. Now, this family show. See, there he go. I think she's listening too now.
No, you got to handle business. What?
Hey,
it's legal. You're married. It's legal. And you're good in God's eyes.
Everybody smile. Yeah. Everybody happy. Everybody happy, right?
So I want to, first of all, testimony to your character. I mean, your story that you told, and its transparency on, like you said, your life, I have to give you, hats off, man, because you're showing the testimony or the trials and tribulations of a lot of African-American men in this country. And you've been through it. You've been through the top of the mountain to the bottom, and you're still able to overcome, and you're able to show that resilience that we have amongst our people and amongst our men that don't necessarily get to hear those kind of stories. They don't understand those types of things that's going on. So I have to salute you on that one, first and foremost.
I appreciate that. And can I say something about that, though? Yeah. Because, and this is to anybody, African-American, anybody, man, woman, boy, girl, who may be listening to this, who has come into a difficult situation, and it may even look like, it's impossible to climb the mountain, or impossible to get out of that, climb out of the hole that you may be in for whatever reason, whether it's your fault or whether it's someone pushed you in it, or whether life just happened. Listen, when I got out of prison, I was 53 years old. I had a PhD. I have 2 doctoral degrees. I had nothing. If it wasn't for the NFL CARES program, I would have been homeless. My wife divorced me at the time, 28 years. She divorced me while I was in prison. When I got out of prison, didn't have a house, didn't have a car, didn't have clothes, didn't have anything. I had to start all over again. And I did not know how I was going to start all over again. And I didn't have the fight at the beginning. I was walking around pretty much numb, trying to figure it out, not actually in a bad state of mind, and almost a couple of times did a couple of crazy things or did something crazy and probably would have ended up back in prison because I was looking for the dude who slighted me. The guy the reason I was he's a fraternity brother of mine. He's a guy that I did business with for years, a guy that I knew for years, and he slighted me. And I was looking for him. And Lord knows, had I found him, I was hearing he was here, I was hearing he was there, and I would go looking for him. If I had found him, I would have killed him. And I'm not even mincing words. I would have choked him to death had I found him. Thank God I didn't find him. And if I see him now, I'm good. I'm good now. But those first 4 or 5 years, man, I was not it took me a while. It really did take me a while to come out. So my word, I say that to say this, things will change. If you hold on and keep doing the right things and believe things will get better, they will get better. They will get better. It may take a while. It may not happen in the time frame that you want it to happen. But if you hang in there and you hold on and you trust God, things will turn around. Seasons change. They do. And I'm in a season in my life right now, as Hicks knows, that, man, God he's incredible. I thought I knew God before all of this happened. Man, I know God a whole lot better now.
Yeah. Amen. And I want to peel back a little bit of that onion as we get into our conversation. Definitely about just your steps through life. But I think let's turn back to just one page as you as an athlete. Like I marvel at you because your career, I followed it. Except till you went to the Patriots, then I didn't like you as much, but because you killed my Dolphins.
That was at first.
But beyond that, though, I mean, even in Nebraska, where you were a great athlete and everything, and then your transition to the NFL, like you said, that 1 year you got hurt, but then it was seamless. Like you were great all the time. I mean, you were great for the Patriots. You were great for the Dolphins. And those years in Philly, you were killing it. And tell me, what was the toughest part of transitioning from high school to college to the NFL? What was the transitional periods from those 3 periods?
Well, there were a number of things. I mean, I was always a great athlete, or I should say a good athlete. I could always play sports. Baseball was my number one sport. I didn't play football until I got in high school, and I played football because my friends were playing football. I didn't play football because I wanted, or I dreamed about going to college, or I dreamed about, or a goal of mine was to go play pro ball. It just kind of happened along the way because I played with everything that I had. I gave it 100%. I put in the effort. I put in the time. I did what the coaches said to do. I knew what I was doing. I didn't make mistakes. Those kinds of things that it takes for you to continue to ascend in your skill. Coming out of high school, my transition was this. I mean, I played a little bit of offense in high school, but we were in a wing T. On offense, I played tight end. So I caught a few balls, but I blocked most of the time. I was recruited out of high school as I was a blue chip safety. I was recruited to be a defensive back. And when I got to Nebraska, I was a defensive back. But my 3rd or 4th day in camp, Coach Osborne tried me on offense, and there the story began. I stayed on offense. But the crazy thing about that, I played well, I blocked well. My one-on-ones in college as a wingback were not running routes against a defensive back. My one-on-ones every day as a wingback in college were blocking defensive ends from a 3-point stance and blocking linebackers from a 3-point stance. So then, I spent 4 years in college, and now I get drafted number 1 player by the New England Patriots as a wide receiver. But I'm not a wide receiver. I wasn't a wide receiver. So the transition from the pros to the NFL, I had to learn how to be a wide receiver. I was in a 3-point stance. Now I'm standing up. I got this dude in front of me with long arms, can run just as fast as I can. I got to try to get around him and run routes. So all of that, my first 2 or 3 years, and I didn't really have coaches that really understood where I was in terms of trying to learn the position, and they really didn't teach. One of the things I know about today's game with, the game is different. The players are different today in the 21st century in 2023. But man, the coaches are detailed. When you talk to some of these players and you talk to them about their position and what it is they're supposed to do to execute at their position, they can give you details. They give you minute details, very descriptive details about what it is they're supposed to do at the top of the route, beginning of the route, the apex of the ball, all that kind of stuff. They can tell you. I wasn't taught any of that kind of stuff. Coaches didn't teach that kind of stuff, at least not to me when I was in New England. I really didn't learn how to be a receiver. I mean, man, I used my physical abilities and my talent while I was in New England, but 9 years into my career, I went to Miami. That's where I learned how to be a real wide receiver, man. They had audibles. They had routes where you could set guys up and use your athletic ability to run your route and color your route. And that's where I really learned. After 9 years in New England, I learned how to be a wide receiver. And that's why my numbers went up so much so from New England to these other teams. And I caught more balls in the latter part of my career than I did in the early part of my career.
Let me piggyback on that, because that's an interesting thing, right? I mean, did you lose value in New England because in your mind, in your skill set, did you lose value because you weren't given those tools? You weren't given, some of that additional coaching of how to play the game at this different position than you're used to? Or do you feel that had you stronger, looking at the playbook a little bit deeper and taking the onus on yourself instead of relying on your position coach and your head coach? Did you sit in your room, look at the playbook and say, I'm gonna make this happen? You can't pick me first round, number 1 draft pick, and I'm not gonna come out here and do what I do.
Well, if they're not throwing you the ball, they're not throwing you the ball, first of all. And then I have the record in the NFL for catching balls from the most quarterbacks, catching touchdowns from the most quarterbacks. 17 years, I caught touchdowns from 19 different quarterbacks. So there was always a change. And most of those quarterbacks, all except for one, which was Dan Marino, and I only played with Dan for 2 years. I was there in Miami for 3 years, but Dan got hurt my first year there, so I only played with Dan for 2 years. He was the only Pro Bowl Hall of Famer caliber quarterback that I played with. All the rest of them were average or below average quarterbacks. If I name some of these guys like Jeff Carlson, Tommy Hodson, you have no clue who they are. So my first 9 years in New England as a wide receiver, I look back on that now, and I see it as a time, not that I was growing, so to speak, but it was, had I had that time in a different offense, maybe in Miami or San Francisco or a different place where they were throwing the ball, the outcome of my numbers would be different. I did a lot of blocking when I was in New England because I could block. I was a wingback. Raymond Berry was my head coach for most of the time I was there, and he would have me line up at the tight end position and block because I could block better than the tight ends. Wow. So my time there as a receiver wasn't developed. I wasn't developed as a receiver. I played ball and I had an impact, but I also returned punts for my first 8 years as well. I was a punt returner and starting wide receiver. So I made an impact returning punts as well as being a wide receiver, but we just didn't throw the ball that much. So my time there wasn't utilized and wasn't maximized as a wide receiver.
So, that's interesting.
Yeah, I know. It's fun. Don't you get me? You're making me frustrated now. I start thinking about that. I'm like, man, y'all already know Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is.
No. But you know how you just said there wasn't anyone there to teach you and give you those details to be successful in the early part of your career. I wonder, in your opinion, you know how you have some of these people that they label as busts. I think they're in the same situation. I don't think anyone that gets drafted in the NFL is a bust. I think there's situations that you can either become successful or not if you're in the right situation. And do you think the ones that they label as a bust that possibly they weren't developed? They couldn't get developed. The coaches don't have the patience to keep developing them to get them to the point where they can be successful. Can you elaborate on something like that for all the people to say this guy was a bust? You know, I don't believe that 100%.
Right. I think that you're exactly right. And even beyond that, because, you know, we see guys who get drafted every year, first round, second round, third round, fourth round, on into the latter parts of the draft. Then we see some of these cats that come in as undrafted free agents. And you have undrafted free agents who come in the league and played 12, 13 years, Pro Bowlers, so on and so forth. There's only a certain amount of roster spots on each team. So guys who get drafted, guys who even don't get drafted, doesn't mean that they can't play at that level. They have the talent most of the time. And like you said, there's some coaching that needs to take place. For me, yeah, there was coaching that I did not get that other players were getting, and that really could have helped me. It had a lot to do with the type of offense we were running. But had I been up as a wide receiver, yeah, things may have been a little bit different for me. So, yeah, it makes all the difference in the world when you have a coach. And that's why I did what I did with guys when they were coming to the league. Rookies who come into the league. When I finally got to Miami, I was in Philadelphia. I would always take that rookie up underneath my wing and try to impart into him some knowledge to help him maximize his time there at the team. That way, if he made the team or if he didn't make the team, he could take that with him and use that information, use that knowledge wherever it was he was going to help him excel in the situation that he found himself in, whether it was with our team or with another team.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you. I think sometimes, these teams get very impatient with some of these players, or it's not the right system. One of the two. There's there. And then they said, then they get this label as a bust. Oh, he's not successful. He's a bust. And I always go back to my man that was at that was with the 49ers and went to Kansas City that ended up in Washington, the quarterback, Alex Smith. Perfect example.
Yeah.
Alex Smith was labeled as a bust his first 4 years of his career until Jim Harbaugh got there and kind of developed him into the quarterback he's supposed to be because he finally got in the right system. And then his numbers just flourished, and they flourished in Kansas City, and they even flourished in Washington. I believe that's the reason why. And I hate when they label bust. I hate when they put that on that title on some of these players because I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's an accurate description of what their success could be.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you say that because, coming into the NFL, that's not something that I really wanted to do necessarily. We were homeless at the time, and my mother actually corralled me, said, listen, you need to go into the NFL so we can get a house. So it's not something that I want. When I came out of college, when I went to college, actually, I didn't even want to go to college. My mother made me go to college. When I went to college, my goal was to fly jets when I got out of college too. So I took meteorology. That was my major. And I wanted to graduate from college and go into the service, the Marines, as an officer and fly jets. That was still my plan when I got out of college. I did not want to go play NFL football. It's not because I didn't love football or like football, but that's not what I wanted to do. That wasn't my dream. I could play football, but like I said, we were homeless. Mom said, listen, we need you to take care of us. So I went and I played. So my first few years in the league, and I'm getting back to what you're saying about bust. My first few years in the league weren't like these guys who come in and they're studying and they're asking questions and they're very awake or aware of what it is they're trying to accomplish in the league because that's what their plan was from the time when they were in high school and college and now into the pros. I was just kind of going through the motions. But then about my fourth year in the league, maybe my fifth year in the league, I wasn't putting up big numbers. I was getting in some trouble and stuff off the field. And Chris Collinsworth had retired. And Chris Collinsworth became an analyst like he is now. And Chris Collinsworth got on TV and said that I was a first round bust. Well, he pissed me off. And I went and played another 12 years pissed off because of him. I did. No, I would think about that every game. I would think about him and I would get pissed off and I go out and I play to prove him and anybody else who thought I was a bust, prove them wrong.
I hear you, man. I hear that.
You notice I did a little pregnant pause right there.
That's a testimony of your character.
Yeah,
that's the character. Yeah.
I'm gonna say I did a little pause because I'm gonna send that out later on tonight, right? That right there. That's why I did a little pregnant pause right there. Chris gonna get this smoke here in a couple of hours.
Yeah,
he gonna get this smoke.
It turned out to be a good thing. I used it as fuel to go out and perform.
Yeah.
But but when he said it, it really rubbed me really the wrong way. Nobody had really ever said anything like that to me or about me. And I knew what the situation was. And I needed to get focused. But what he said, his criticism helped me to get focused.
See, The power of words, right?
That is
Power
true.
of
Yes, sir.
words
That is.
to motivate
Would
you.
you go back and I want to get to this comment and then kind of go into some other conversations, because we also mentioned one of the stories that I've got on the list, and maybe we can talk about some aspects of that. But Mr. Davis, Tony Davis is asking, would you go back and coach? Go back to Nebraska?
Back to the listen. And this was my plan. This was my plan. I was coaching high school ball when I got indicted for that whole court thing, and I got fired. My plan was, and we were doing well. I was in Robbinsville, New Jersey. My plan was to coach there at high school and to eventually go to college and coach, not in the pros, but in the college. I don't think I would do well as a professional coach. I don't think people realize what that takes. First of all, you sacrifice your family. Sometimes they're all over the place. You know, they're in this state, they're in that state. And the coaches put in more time than the players do. The coaches have less of a life than the players do, because it never stops for the coaches. Even when the season is over, they got to get ready for the draft. They got to get ready to choose play. They got to get ready for all that stuff. And they don't have any time off. They put in super duper hours. And I don't want that kind of life. I don't want that kind of life. Whether it's, I don't know if it's like that in your Division I college schools, but even at high school, the time I put in when I was coaching, a head coach at a high school level, I mean, it was a lot of hours I put in to get our team ready. So I loved it because I love being around the kids. I love watching kids develop. I love watching kids find themselves and accomplish things they never really thought they could accomplish by way of coaching, and directing them and imparting into them and showing them, giving them examples. I love that. I love that. There's nothing better than that. And if I could have done that at a college level, because I consider college students kids as well, they're still kids, then I would have loved to have done it there. But my coaching days ended when I got indicted back in 2015.
Go ahead, make it plain, Pastor. Go ahead, make it plain.
Yeah, they just did. I was coaching, and they fired me. I was indicted. And listen, first of all, this country is not. In this country, it's crazy. In this country, and I found a lot about the system afterwards. You find out afterwards. I didn't know anything about the system because I'd never been involved in the system, but you find out once you're in it, you really find out a lot. But this country is not you're innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty and you have to prove your innocence. That's how it is. I don't care what anybody says. You just have never, if you think different than that, you've never been involved in the system. You've never been in a courtroom where you're on trial. You've never been at a place where you've had to prove your innocence. And that's how it is. It is not you're innocent until proven guilty. No freaking way in the world. It's you're guilty and you got to prove your innocence. And those who have money have the ability to prove their innocence. If you don't have ducats, I'm telling you, you're lost. You're just going to lose the battle.
No, I wasn't expecting to get this master class here. You didn't open up a can of all kind of worms. Go ahead, Montel, because I'm ready. I'm rolling my sleeves up. Yeah,
So Irving, let's peel back one more layer, top it off that story. So you get indicted, you get convicted, and you're sentenced to jail. I want to know.
I was in prison.
The most thing you feared? Yeah, in prison. So I want to know what you feared your first day in prison.
Yeah.
And how was your first day? I mean, what was your first day in prison like? Your very first day.
Okay, go back. You said something. You said something else.
I want to know your fears. Your fears going into prison, and then what was your first day like in prison?
Oh, okay. I really didn't have any fear.
Be candid.
No, I'm gonna be candid
on this one.
I didn't have any. First of all, we go through the trial, and if you want to get into some of the details about that, I'm more than willing to. But went through the trial, and I get convicted. My mother and I were in this. He involved my mother in this, and that's my fault because I gave him access to me and my mother. That's what I'm guilty of. I'm guilty of not checking on this guy and doing my background on this guy. Why? Because he's a guy that I knew for years. We did business for years. He's my fraternity brother. So I didn't check up on him. And I gave him access to me. I gave him access to my mother. That's my fault. So when you peel the onion back far enough, it started with me. Now, was I guilty of what I got convicted of? No. So we go to trial. They convict us of conspiracy to commit fraud. They sentenced me to 5 years. They give my mother probation. The judge, on the day of sentencing, a month later, the judge says, before she sentenced me, it's funny, man. She said, Mr. Fryar, I would have found you innocent. This is public record. Found you innocent. This is what the judge says. I'm like, well, why are you treating me like I'm guilty if you would have found me innocent? What's going on? So I never thought I was going to prison. I really didn't. Even when I was convicted, even when they found us guilty, because the trial was so crazy and so upside down. There were so many things in there. There was so much reasonable doubt that I really thought that the judge was going to overturn it, because it was absolutely ridiculous. It just was. You had to have been there and experienced it and seen it and heard it. You can go back in the records in Mount Holly, Burlington County, and you can read it for yourself. But so I never thought I was going to prison. So I wasn't worried that month between the conviction and the sentencing. I go into sentencing and I'm thinking the judge is going to overturn it. I really did. I honestly did. I never thought I was going to prison. And she sent me to prison. I wasn't concerned. I really wasn't concerned. Some of the CEO, I had favor, like a Joseph situation. I had favor. When I first got downstairs, when they first put me in the first cell in the county, that's where I was locked up for a few days. Then I went to the state prison. I go downstairs and there was a guy who's the head CEO. I went to high school with him. So, I needed to make some calls. I didn't have my phone. He told them, listen, go get his phone out of his pants and come over here. I sat at his desk and make some phone calls. I called my mother. Yeah, I called my mother. I called a couple other people just to let them know I was okay. And so God showed me favor right away. But I never was worried. I was never concerned. One, because I can fight. If I had to fight, I can fight. I can hold my hand. So if I had to fight, we just got to fight. And I almost had to fight one time, but it didn't happen. So I was never concerned. But that first day, I can remember, man, they kept me in isolation. They never put me with other people until I got into the final place where I was in Jones Farm. But most of the time I was in a cell by myself. And that first day, an hour seemed like 24 hours. Time just stopped. And it's amazing, depending on where you are and what's going on in your life, how time either moves or stands still. Because even when I got out of prison, I've ended up spending 8 months in prison. Even when I got out of prison, when I got out, the day I got out, I'm like, dang, that didn't take that long. But when I was in prison, it seemed like an eternity. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing, depending on where you are and what's going on in your life, how time either stands still or time just flies by. But it just dragged on. The thing for me was I was so concerned with the church and not necessarily holding on to the church, but what people thought. I was so concerned about what people thought that it was really, really hindering my ability to try to keep peace and try to get through the time, because I knew the truth. God knew the truth. There were some people, I believe, who close to me who knew the truth of what had happened. And then later on, when I got out of prison, and this guy, his name was Bill Barksdale. There were people who came up to me afterwards, after I got out of prison. Yeah, Bill Barksdale did this to me. He did that to me. He did this to me. 15, 20 people. I'm like, well, how come you didn't step forward when I needed you before the trial? Yeah. And from what I understand, he went back to prison for the same thing, for doing the same thing with somebody else. So my first day, it was rough. I remember sitting in the cell, on the bunk, thinking to myself, dang, I was in my bed last night. And now I'm laying on this iron cot or this iron bed.
Now I'm 100% controlled, right?
Yeah, with this real thin mattress.
Man.
What a difference a day makes. I remember thinking that the first day. but from then on, I'm not going to say it was easy time. One day in prison is too long. But I will say this about the system. Once you're in the system, which I'm still in the system, I'm still paying restitution. I still get letters if I get behind in my payments, I still get letters from the state saying they're going to throw me back in prison. And this is 8 years later. If I get behind in my payments, I get a letter. We're going to put you back in prison. So it's once you're in the system, it's hard. It's really hard. I see why there's so much recidivism when it comes to people returning back to prison. I remember when I was in prison, there was a cat I had a job with who he got out before me. And a month later, he was back in prison. I'm like, dude, what you doing back here? When I get out of here, I'm never coming back here again. Why are you back here again? But they make it hard for you because I was on a program called ISP, Intensive Supervision Program. You can't have help from somebody else. I wasn't in a halfway house. In a halfway house, you can't have a phone. You can't, there's a lot other things you can't do. But when I was on ISP, at least I could have a phone, I could have a job, I could have a car, I could live normal. I just had to report every week. I had to have a curfew, that kind of thing. But I couldn't get a loan. I couldn't get help from somebody else. I couldn't get those kinds of things. And I needed that kind of stuff. I needed somebody to help me. I needed somebody to give me some money. Like I said, if it wasn't for the NFL Cares program paying my rent for the first few months, I would have been homeless. And even with the program that I was in, I had to sneak behind them and get that done without them knowing. Otherwise, they would have thrown me back. If I'd have got help and they'd known about it, they would have thrown me back in prison. So they make it hard for you to make it when you get out.
That's crazy.
And listen to this, because the judge mandated that I have 2 jobs. So they took, because of my restitution, they took 20% of my check after taxes. All right, for the restitution from my first job, 20% of my check after taxes for my first job, and they took 100% of my check of my second job. I did that for 21 months.
Wow.
So here's where I want to go with this, because again,
y'all quiet. Y'all quiet.
we quiet because we letting it marinate. We let it marinate because I know folks are listening and watching, and they're saying, "Okay, man, Irving's coming through with this real talk." And here's where I want to go.
But you know what? But I'm better. I'm better. I'm better because of it. I'm better.
Yeah. So along with that, you've mentioned about NFL Cares, and Montel and I have talked a lot about these new cats coming in and 18, 19 years old. Now they got NIL in their world, right? You didn't have it when you were coming through. When you came into the league, was there somebody, was there some group, was there some squad or some team that came up and said, Irv, this is how you take care of your money. You need to find the right people to be around. You need to get your crew right. Keep your crew small. You need to try as best as you can to stay out of trouble. If you do get it right, was there any of that counseling about how to approach now being millionaires at such an early age and how to just progress through life for some of these young guys?
There was none of that. When I came into the league, there was none of that. I have to be careful how I say this because I signed an agreement where I couldn't say anything, but there was a guy when I was in college that I knew who was a friend of mine. He was the head of Dean Witter at the time. And I knew him as a freshman in college when there was no promises of me being a professional athlete. I knew him all 4 years. So I entrusted him once I signed my contract in the NFL with my money, and he stole money from me. But there were no programs in the NFL trying to teach us how to do this or how to do that, how to manage your money. That kind of stuff just did not exist when I came into the league. It's funny you asked that because I can remember a time after I retired, I was at a seminar. I was doing some work for the NFL as an ambassador for the NFL, a transitional coach. And I was at one of the events they were having, and they had brought in some former NFL players who were current businessmen at the time, and they were talking about their success. Well, this one cat was talking, and he said that his father told him that when he signed his first contract to go ahead and buy your house, get your car, get what you want, okay, and figure out, calculate what it's going to take for you to pay your bills every month. And then you need to calculate how much money you need to have in the bank so that you can have that amount of money to pay your bills every month. So you need to save that amount of money. After that, you know that you can live like that for the rest of your life, right? Once you have that money saved to handle those bills, any money you make over and above that, you can invest, you can take chances with, so on and so forth. That is a very simple strategic plan that makes sense. Yeah. I got mad because nobody had ever said anything like that to me before. Nobody had ever given me that kind of plain, practical information. Had somebody done it, I would have carried it out. The other thing was this. The people around me, because I took care of everybody, my mother, my father, my sisters. So when I was acting the fool, nobody said anything to me. Why? Because I was the one paying the bills. And I guess they assumed I knew what I was doing when I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Come on. Yeah.
So yeah, it was rough. And talking about NIL, man, had they had NIL when I was in school, oh my gosh, I would have retired before I got to the pros. I never would have went to the pros. I would have retired. I would have made it up. Man, come on, dog.
You'd have been at the grocery store, bag of groceries for $50,000 in appearance, and just put that money to the side.
What I was able to accomplish in college back then,
yeah,
man. I can't say. But if they had NIL back then,
my God,
I'd have had like 3-4 cars. I would have retired at 22. I never would have played pro ball.
You'd have been driving around, and what's he driving? What's Shador driving around? And he riding a Phantom, isn't he?
Is that a Rolls Royce? You got a Rolls Royce?
Flashing watches.
That don't make no sense. Where do you go? Look, where do you go from there? Where do you go from there?
Where do you go? Right?
Where do you go from there?
He's not doing as great as we hoped he was. He still got I don't want to pivot and deviate too much. I see folks coming in the comments. Noosh, we see you, man. We appreciate you for being here as well. Montel, I know you want to ask some questions, but let me throw this in real quick because we started talking about coaches and we started talking about the impact of coaches. Mentioned Harbaugh a couple of times. Jim Harbaugh's in a situation right now. Okay, Jim Harbaugh has been banned from the team for this season, 6 games. Right, the first 3 games he was banned, and now this situation with sign stealing. He's saying he had nothing to do with it. He's now banned from the last 3 games. Jimbo Fisher just got fired from Texas. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for him, to be honest with you, because there's so much cash and money involved.
He's getting paid, man. That's a good thing.
Right. So we're looking at these 2 situations. And let me say this, and then I know Montel was asked, then I'll let you go. So, the Harbaugh situation, do you think he was, I'm going to ask that question. Do you think he was involved in any of that? Did he have any knowledge of the situation? The Jimbo Fisher thing, do you think it was warranted for him to be fired? And then a couple of weeks ago, talked about the Michigan State coach who got fired as well, that got paid out from the sexual harassment suit. We're seeing a lot of these high value, high visibility schools making these kinds of changes. And I just can't put my head around all this money that's being just shoveled around. What, $77 million over to Jimbo to walk?
Listen, I found out last week, the school that I attended, Nebraska, I don't know why this happened. Trev Alberts is the athletic director at the University of Nebraska Cornhuskers. They just doubled his salary a few days ago. They doubled his salary. How do you double? What do you mean?
Yeah.
They doubled his salary. So yeah, there's some shenanigans going on with this whole Harbaugh situation. I'm not a big fan of Harbaugh, but obviously they're saying that it's a sportsmanship policy breach.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this guy named Connor Stallions. He's a low-level staffer.
Right.
And he resigned last week, and apparently he had something to do, whatever it is they're being accused of in terms of this violation of, if you're guys on teams, whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, they're always trying to figure out and find out what the other team's signs are, what their plays are, if we can get
Right.
an edge, or we can figure out what their calls are, their audibles, if we can get some type of inside info, teams are doing that kind of stuff all the time. I don't know to what extent the Big Ten is trying to investigate. And the thing is, they're banning Harbaugh, but there has not been a complete investigation. So I guess that's Harbaugh and his attorneys' rebuttal to what's going on with the Big Ten. I'm not a big fan of Harbaugh, but this kind of thing I think is a minor fraction. You know, if it's something that he did, it's something that everybody's doing. They just haven't been caught.
It's all over the place.
It's almost like Sean Payton years ago with the Saints. He was banned for a year because he was putting out bounties on the heads of players. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
We have bounties all the time. That happened all the time when I was playing. Every year in my 17 years in NFL, there were always bounties on players' heads all the time. Sean got caught. Somebody said something, whatever it was, they did an investigation, and he was banned for a year. So this is something I think that goes on all the time. For whatever reason, somebody's got it out for Harbaugh, and they're trying to make an example of him. I'm sure he's not the one who did it. If he knows anything about this one, Connor Stallions, whatever he did, if he was a part of it, it may have been, again, it's Joe Paterno. That whole thing with Joe Paterno. Joe Paterno, he's kind of the same. He's their coach, so they're gonna blame him.
Yeah.
He wasn't there. He didn't know all the details. He probably may have known something about it, but he didn't condone it. Probably told his coaches make it go away. But he ended up being punished for it. So Harbaugh's the head coach. If it happened on his watch, then guess what? He's going to have to take the fall for it.
Go into the question I think you want to ask about the Michigan State, and I want to bring this comment up by
Talk. Actually, I want to pivot a little bit from that. So Herm Edwards got in trouble a couple of years ago, right, for recruiting violations. Herm Edwards was fired. Harbaugh suspended for violations. Is there a distinction between African American coaches and white coaches at these high level programs when violations are taught? We're automatically fired or not? Well, these guys are getting suspended, or there's an alternative way around it. I want to know your opinion on that, Irving.
I went to prison. I went to prison I was sentenced for 5 months. 5 years. I'm sorry. I went to prison for 8 months. I spent 8 months in prison for conspiracy to commit fraud. That the state convinced the jury, not that I got any money from any of these loans that Bill Barksdale applied for, because it was proof that I got none of that money. But he was paying people out of that money. And the jury convinced people, the state convinced the jury that their story was the money he was paying out was to people I owed money to. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Yeah. So they convinced them of that. And I went to prison for that. But then you have these presidents of banks who steal people's 401ks, who steal people's savings, who take from people and put them in a position to where they cannot retire. And they take and they confess to taking hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not sent to prison. They're asked to retire, and they're given their pension, which is like hundreds of millions of dollars. You tell me what that's all about. There's a difference, not just in football. There's a difference in this country, the way, and I'm going to say it, the way black people are treated in certain instances in comparison to how white folk are treated. It just is.
That conversation is what Montel and I have every week. And again, I think sometimes folks are tired of hearing it from us, right? But they have it come from someone else external who has been in the system, who is part of the system, the good of it, the bad of it. I mean, and
Well,
unfortunately,
but just
is what
open
it
your
is.
eyes. People don't want to hear it. Just open your eyes.
Yeah.
Open your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody
These are
knows
those
about
uncomfortable
these.
conversations that we talk about, right? So it's
I
comforting to have you
yeah,
say that as well. I mean, it's we need to get better,
and
but just we need to
yeah,
have
yeah.
these
And
conversations as well.
I brought that up for a reason because I want people to understand. I mean, violations are violations, right? And you're gonna persecute one person for a violation, and yet the other one you're gonna slap them on the wrist. Now, granted,
Right.
Harbaugh's situation is not completely investigated just yet, but Michigan is not gonna fire Harbaugh unless they have to. They're not. He brings too much money to the table,
Yeah.
just like Herman was bringing money to the table at Arizona State with his name and his backing. So my frustration comes with these NCAA institutions where there's so much money involved that society wants us to ignore race, but in business, race is an issue. There is a barrier of color that's there that we get a shorter leash than they do. Even though no matter how good we are, we still get a shorter leash than what they do. Or if we do something, we're persecuted. Herm Edwards is convicted of something that he said he had no knowledge about what was going on with his recruiting during COVID. Illegal recruiting. People illegally recruit all year, every year in the Division I football. All year, every year, illegal recruit. Paying players, doing whatever they want to do. He gets fired. Harbaugh breaks stealing signs or whatever. That's a Big Ten issue, and that's an NCAA issue. That's supposed to do it. That guy Connor dressed up as Central Michigan coach and was on the sideline getting calls, stealing signs.
Right.
That's premeditated right there, boy.
Regardless, if the kid quit, that's fine. But Harbaugh, you're the head of the snake. You're going to be punished, just like Northwestern. The head of the coach didn't know anything. He had to leave. So it just behooves me how it's hypocritical and when people say things and then they ask us, oh, don't reflect on it. It has nothing to do with race. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, give me some merits where it doesn't.
Well, let me say this. Let's take it to the highest level.
Okay.
What do you think would happen to Barack Obama if he did what Donald Trump has done?
He would have been impeached. Immediately.
At
He'd
minimum,
been in jail. Not impeached. He'd have been impeached and in jail.
At minimum, he would have been. Yeah.
With the quickness.
We can't act a fool like 45 is doing. So, and I won't say his name, but yeah, we can't act a fool like that.
I say his name. Yeah, 45, Donald Trump, whatever. Yeah, he's out of control, man.
You know.
Yeah. So I mean, what I was getting at, I just want people to know that there is a difference when we see these high level coaches. It's funny, and then like you're talking about the money, James, like the money, how it's there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Michigan State coach.
Michigan State. Yeah.
He was due to get $90 million. Due to get my $90 million. He hasn't been successful at the program. I think they wanted to find a way out, and somehow the sexual assault allegations came above that he did presumably with Zoom. Now, so they figured out a way to get him out of that contract and not have to pay him the $90 million that's owed to him. Well, I think the $70 million owed to him after that. And then Jimbo Fisher, obviously, they just let him go. We're going to pay you $76 million for you not to coach here and go coach somewhere else.
Lord have mercy.
Every time I look at them numbers. Let's look at the situation. If you didn't want, the guy at Michigan State there, why don't you do like that? Buy him out and then let him deal with the law, those allegations as they come. On the other end, they're just going to pay these coaches out and say, get up out of here. Urban Meyer's been flirting with women for I don't know how long. He does it too. He's done.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I'll bring up Urban Meyer because you know what? Urban Meyer's probably due to get another college job pretty soon here. He's pretty due. We've had other coaches that have sexual assault. It's never been blasted. And actually, I don't know any of them that they stop where they get their payment, their money. This big man's not going to get his money with these charges is coming up. So,
can I say something?
With coaches. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say this because I know it to be a fact. These sexual allegations happen all the time. We don't hear about them. About them. They pick and they choose.
I said that on our show the other day. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they pick and choose which ones they're going to allow to hit the public because they want some kind of result or some kind of reaction, or they're trying to prove a point, or maybe like you said, they're trying to get someone out. But these come on, man, you got these kids today, and you got these college kids, girls, coaches, money. Come on. That kind of stuff happens all the time. They just pick and choose which ones we find out about and that they're going to make a big deal about in order to prove a point or to move somebody in or out. It happens all the time.
Yeah, you prove my point. Absolutely. That somehow we get to the focal point when it's bad, where other situations they kind of sweep it under the rug. They're sweeping under the rug. And I wanted to bring that to our audience because I know people. Me and James got bashed some time on you know, out there. How you guys are always talking about race and all that, and I'm like, well, let's talk about the elephant in the room because it's real. And if you want me to respect your opinion, you need to respect our opinion as well and how we see things. And I think the public doesn't see it all the time, and it's good to hear refreshing from somebody that's been, like I said, been there, been from the top, you know, from the bottom to the top.
Racism is the first sin and the major sin, or I'm not going to say a major because sin is sin, but racism is the first sin in this country. That's our major issue is racism. And it's always been that way and will always be that way. It's not going to change. I think black folk thought things were going to change when Barack Obama became president. Oh, it's not going to be any more racism. We're not going to be judged by the color of our skin. We ain't arrived. Like I said the other day in my sermon, we advanced, but we have not arrived. We have made some advances, but yet and still there's a system that's in place that does not benefit black people, minorities, African Americans. The system was put in place. When the system was put in place, wasn't nobody in that room looked like you, looked like me. Nobody. And the system was put in place intentionally to benefit them and to ostracize us. Period. And until that system is changed, ain't nothing gonna change.
So I would say to your system, that's why we have a skewed number of coaches in the college realm, from color from black to white, and skewed definitely in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's why we actually celebrate it so much when those things do happen and when we do kind of break those barriers. And I wanted to put the plug in just for what we do on a regular basis here. That's why, again, part of our tagline is getting comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. We're doing this to bring light, not necessarily point fingers, but to find a way to do better and get better, that kind of thing, right? Because no one else is having this kind of a conversation about these kinds of topics. They're just glossing over it and just hitting the highlights and just doing the stuff that's sexy. You notice we gotten pretty ugly. We gotten pretty, right? We rolled up the sleeves on some of these conversations because this is above the noise and this is what matters. This is what's getting the chat that's fired up and down here as well.
Even in the NFL, they're scared to death. Why? First of all, years ago, they didn't want black folk in the NFL. Then we got in the NFL, they allowed us in, and now the majority of the athletes in the NFL are black folk, all right? We making the money. They didn't want guys who were players in the NFL, they couldn't play quarterback. They're not capable of playing quarterback. Now look at what's happening. The whole NFL is kind of switching over to the athletic quarterback, which in most cases are the black quarterback who can throw the ball and run the ball. That's the type of NFL it's turned into. Now they're scared to death. Okay, these black coaches, they're going to come in and they're going to start taking over because guess what? They can relate to these black players and they can teach these young black men how to be grown black men. We may not want that to happen.
Right.
So now we're fighting to get more black coaches, head coaches in the NFL. And then we'll move to the next level and try to get some black owners. But right now, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, or it's not happening, I should say. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but if it does happen, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Let's do a couple more stories, and then again, I want to be cognizant of time, and I want to throw a couple of things up. But you mentioned on this, so let me.
You kept me up past my bedtime as it is, so I'm up now. I'm gonna keep you up.
Philadelphia over there,
I'm on the East Coast. What time is it? It's 10:30. Lord have mercy. My watch done went off. My watch done went off.
Your Apple
It
Watch has
stopped
gone into
working.
do not disturb mode.
It's not even shining no more.
Lord have mercy. This man's Apple Watch has gone into do not disturb mode because it's
Yep, it's do not disturb. No, it went into go to bed mode.
That don't make no sense. Look, y'all keep asking questions. We see the comments lighting up. We appreciate you, everyone, for joining as well. Yeah, I got it shut down, so you got to be a subscriber to be able to leave comments. So come on now. I see y'all out there. Make sure you subscribe so you can interact with Mr. Fryar. Let's talk about you being in Philadelphia. Let's talk about you played for a couple of these teams. How they doing? How you feel about them Eagles right now? I want to ask you. I want to ask you about today's NFL and your feelings about today's NFL. You started touching on it about the quarterbacks. You started touching on about some of the other things. But how do you feel about today's NFL and what you're seeing? And then since you're in the area, how do you feel about your Eagles?
Okay, well, today's NFL, man, I was born like 20 years too soon. I wish I could play today in the NFL. It's a different game. I understand why they've changed certain things because, they want or they're concerned about the health of NFL players, and rightfully so. There have been some serious injuries in the past, and I'm not talking about on the field or during games. I'm talking about the lasting effect of the game afterwards when guys retire. Even like myself, I got a ringing in my ears right now. So had, that whole rule where they can't hit you in the head now, had that been in play or had that been activated when I was playing, I probably wouldn't have this ringing in my ears right now. So I understand what they're doing, but some of the things that are happening right now in the game, when it comes to like the preseason and how much they practice or how much they play in the preseason so they can get ready for the regular season. I'm not quite in total agreement with that because it takes, as you saw, the beginning of the football season, regular season, it takes teams 2 or 3 games to get in the flow, to get up to speed, to get up to real game speed and to play at that level. So we're kind of wasting or paying money and watching 2-3 games into the season when they should be at full speed and acclimated. Their bodies calloused up because they've gone through the preseason and playing real good quality football. We're not seeing that early in the season. So I believe that's because they don't play. The starters don't play during preseason, which I don't understand because you got to play in order to get ready to play. And if you don't practice, you can only practice so much. It's a different level. It's a different level of intensity. It's a different level of speed when you get into a regular game. And you're playing against an opponent who don't care nothing about you. So you have to play during the preseason to get ready for the regular season. So there's some things about what's happening there's some things about what's happening that I don't quite agree with or don't quite understand. But man, I like the fact that they're throwing the ball as much as they're throwing it. It's very exciting. People love to see touchdowns scored. They've adjusted the game so it's a audience favored game where you see more scoring and more touchdowns, more exciting plays, where defenses are more on their heels than they used to be. It's hard for a defense right now to dominate a game or to be dominate a team because there's so many great athletes and so many rules in place now where you can't really just have your way on defense with the offensive guys. So I wish I was playing right now. I could have put up some. I could have played 5-6 more years, man.
You and T.O. can get back out there and run a few routes. I think y'all could suit them up still.
No, I'll wait till they get to like the 5-yard line and run a fade.
Lord,
I can do that.
Pull a hammy or something.
15 years. Yeah, I'm messing around, pull a hammy. But the Eagles, man, what are you gonna say about the Eagles? They're 8-1. Your record is who you are. They're the best team in the league right now. And people in Philadelphia, in this area, they're never satisfied. This is a tough place to play. But people are saying, they need to play better. They need to do this. They need to do that. They haven't played a complete game. Well, who has played a complete game? And in order for them to get to the Super Bowl, people are saying, well, they got to play better to get to the Super Bowl. Well, they're better than everybody else. No team has 8 wins. No team has more wins than them. And every team has more losses than them in the NFL. So if the Eagles need to get better, then how much more does everybody else need to get better to get to the Super Bowl?
Wait.
So
Your old team not doing so well. Belichick not doing well. No, so we don't want to go that route.
They call him Belichick. Belichick. No, you know what I think about Belichick? Here's what I think about Belichick, because obviously he's one of the greatest coaches of all time, but I think he's overstaying his time in the league. Why? Because, won all those championships, Super Bowls with Tom Brady. But I believe that Tom Brady was the one that was communicating with the players most of the time. I believe Belichick, he's an old school type coach back during my day, and you can't coach kids like that today. And I believe he's lost his ability to communicate just because of time. He's lost his ability to communicate with today's athlete. And that's what you're seeing as a result of the win-loss record of the Patriots and their lack of performance on the field. It's his inability as a head coach to relate to these young cats and to get them to believe into what he's trying to do and the system that he's got in place. And he's trying different things. He took Patrice last year. He took Patrice, who was a defensive coordinator, and made him an offensive coordinator. What the heck are you doing? That was just a crazy move that didn't make any sense. So that's saying to me, he's desperate people do desperate things. I think he's lost his ability to communicate with these young cats, and he needs to move on. He needs to go ahead, in my opinion, and retire before he messes up his legacy.
Good point. Man, need to get out there before he messes up his legacy. But News is saying might be too used to that winning lifestyle. Because didn't he buy a yacht every year? Did he won a Super Bowl? God,
wow.
It's
like a boxer. It's like a boxer.
Yeah.
You box too long, Doc, people gonna remember you getting your behind whooped on instead of all those wins you had. You're a champion boxer, but you stayed in the ring too many, 1, 2, 3, too many fights. Get your behind out while you're on top. So you can live off. He can still make a great living off his legacy.
Oh yeah, he's set. Come on, his family's set. So
somebody taught him how to use his money. Someone taught him how to invest his money. Trust me.
You think someone like Gronk too, right? Paid for him along. I know I've heard the stories. Gronk hasn't cashed for a while. Didn't cash any of his game checks. He lived off of all of his endorsements. So now those folks are having those types of conversations. All right, Montel, you go with the next question, man, because I'm gonna set up some things here for Irv that I think he gonna like.
Are you a fan of the extended season? With them extending the season to 17 games in the playoffs, what's your thoughts on that?
The extended. Well, let me say it this way. I had a record with the Eagles for catches, 88 and 86. It was me, first and second place in terms of catches in a season. And I set that record when I was 33, 34 years old, back in 1996 and 97. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both broke that record, the catch record, last year in the 17th game. 16 games, they had not broken it. They didn't break it. So they have the record supposedly, but it took them 17. They didn't break it until the 17th game. So in that aspect, no, I'm not fond or a fan of the extended season. But from a different perspective, what I do now, I am a post and pregame analysis. I do post and pregame analysis with a company called the Green Legion. I have a couple of podcasts vetted with Irving Fryar and Hollis Thomas on A2D Radio. I also do the Fryer Place. I also do Wideouts World with Michael Timpson and Fred Barnett on Millions, and we do a lot of football. So the extra season, the extra time puts extra money in my pocket.
I hear that.
So I'm a fan of the extended season because it lasts. Look, bro, it lasts a little bit longer. I'm still hustling. I have yet to get out of this hole that was created for me 8 years ago. God is good. Don't get me wrong. The Lord has been blessing. God is tremendous and has been tremendous in my life. There was a point when I first got out of prison, I was working for a church and I was making $450 a week, y'all, 67 years ago, $450 a week. I don't know how I paid my bills. Jesus was just taking that bread and breaking it and multiplying it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I was making $450 a week. Now I went to prison and I lost everything, but I still had bills. My bills were still way up here. And I never missed, listen to me. God is so good. I never missed anything. I never missed a bill. I was late sometimes, but my bills have always been paid, even when I didn't have a dime and didn't know how I was going to do it. God still made a way. So yeah, I'm still on the hustle, and I like the extended season because I get a chance. That's why the Eagles got to go to the Super Bowl.
But you don't know.
That's all right. Now, a few months ago, we was on the stream. It wasn't on this. I think it was with our dude KP, Keith Pelzer. Shouts out to him. And you would ask the question. You said James don't know what he's doing. He can't do research. He on the fly, right? Because
wait. Were those my exact words?
No,
I said James can't do research on the fly. That's
I'm paraphrasing.
I need you to pull that up. If I said, I don't think those are my exact words.
I'm trying to bring the drama. These are the cliff notes for drama.
Oh yeah, okay. So, you creating? Yeah, he just making stuff up.
I'm stirring it up. So Montel, listen. You probably see our play back in the day. The man has made some catches. The man has made some catches that will rival anybody that's out there today. He did the original Odell Beckham catch. Okay. And
it's Irving Fryar catch. That's not Odell Beckham.
I'm
the original. It's Irving Fryar.
Go, like I said, put some respect on your name. I found 3 of them. I couldn't. I've got the one that we're gonna talk about, but man, there was 3 catches that you did that really you kind of showed your tail. And this man is out here, folks. Y'all watch this man make this. Good Lord, have mercy. This man, look at him, and just excited too, boy. You're not gonna run in the middle of him. You're gonna let him do.
I was yelling at the coach right there because he didn't think I could do it. I was practicing that all week long, and I was dropping it all week long. And when I made it in the game, I was fussing at the coach. I was like, I got you.
That's probably not what you said. You probably called him something else, but you called him by his name. But
straight seam route.
My goodness, there it is right there, folks. That's the original Odell Beckham catch right there. Odell ain't got nothing on Irving Fryar.
And that was a great throw too by the quarterback landing in that pocket.
Yeah, it was a good throw. Middle of the field. Yeah, Ty was a good quarterback. Tony Eason.
Yeah, okay. We flashing back here, folks. We flashing back, showing some things.
That's way back. This is one of the records I have because I'm the only one in the history of the NFL that's caught a touchdown pass on the first play of the game and a touchdown pass on the last play of the game.
Really?
And this one's the last play of the game.
Look at this right here.
Hail Mary.
In the back of the end zone. Look at this man in the back of the end zone. They can't believe it. They don't know what's going on. Look at them Rams. They don't know what's going on.
Mary.
And
that's awesome.
My teammates liked me that day.
Yeah, that's 2. That's 2. But I think that this was the one.
Oh, that's the Cowboys game. You can't really see it there.
No, I'm gonna zoom in because you need to see this again. The way that this man caught this ball going south when the ball was coming north. Let's go and show this replay. Lined up in the Eagles. Come on, Eagles. Come on now. This man has some stickum on his gloves. There we go.
Sometimes listen. Sometimes you get into a zone, man. I used to call it playing in the spirit. You just get into a zone. AJ Brown was in that zone for several weeks, and it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter where he throws it. It doesn't matter what happens. You're going to catch it. You're going to get open. You're going to make it happen. and I was in one of those zones for weeks during that year. It didn't matter. I got my hand on the ball. I caught it. I don't care where it was. It was just one of those things, man. It just sometimes it happens for guys, and I think some of the great ones, they get in zones like that. Some it lasts a little bit longer than others, but you have those moments where you can't do anything wrong. You've seen that before. Michael Jordan talks about the basket being, this big.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's your zone. It doesn't matter what you throw it up there, it's going in.
I love it, man.
Hey.
Listen,
I got a few rapid. Before we go, can I ask you a few rapid fire questions? Like the first thing that comes to your head, just
he's gonna fall asleep now. Don't let him fall asleep on you.
Oh, this rapid fire. Okay, wait, my mic is tripping here. What you doing there, Mike?
Okay. We're gonna pick this one up. This is gonna be Irving Fryar's rapid fire right here.
Uh-oh.
So,
Lord Jesus,
favorite team you play for?
Favorite team? Miami Dolphins, man.
Okay. Favorite quarterback you play with?
Steve Grogan.
Toughest DB
I surprised you didn't.
Yeah, that did surprise me. Toughest DB you went against?
Raymond Claiborne, New England.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Favorite teammate?
Favorite teammate, Michael Timpson.
Okay.
He's my
favorite
best
coach
friend.
You played against. You played with. Favorite coach.
Favorite coach?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's a toss-up, man. I would have to say Tom Osborne back in college.
Oh, okay. That was a shocker. I did not expect you to say that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite team today outside of the Philadelphia Eagles? Who's your next favorite?
Favorite team today outside the Philadelphia Eagles? Oh, my gosh. I have to say the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, my God.
Good. Now, team you hate the worst. You hate the most, I should say.
Oh, the freaking Dallas Cowboys, man. Shoot.
Hey, I'm sorry.
The Dallas Cowboys.
So the favorite DB who's the DB used to eat up every time you played?
Oh, Jason Sehorn.
Whoa, from the Giants.
I used to kill him, man. I mean, I used to kill him. I used to kill them all, but I used to like killing him. I used to like.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And that's the quick taste of Irving Fryar. We're gonna end it on that one.
That was
Jason Sehorn. I hope you watching.
Yeah, he gonna get some of the smoke too. I'm gonna find
he
him
knows.
on Twitter.
He messed up. He messed up one day, and we were at the Pro Bowl. He was at the Pro Bowl, and my wife at the time happened to be talking to his wife, and this was after the season. After playing him a couple of times in the season, I smacked him around. I knocked him down one time. I hit him, making a move and knocked him down. He couldn't believe I was that strong. But his wife told my wife at the time that he would lose sleep. He would not sleep the night before he had to play me because he was so worried about playing me. I was like, oh, you should have told me that.
Oh Lord, now I'm definitely in your head now.
Yeah, you should have told me that. You really done now, bro.
Exactly.
You done messed up now. You gonna learn today. Listen,
yes, sir.
We appreciate you, man. Cannot go without being stated, and don't want to take anything for granted, man. This has been a real treat. For me, for Montel, I speak for Montel as well. He can talk for himself, but for us in the community as well, bringing you on. So many questions were answered, and so many other questions still need to be asked and still need to ask. So you now have keys to the front door, and I typically say this. Now, you come through anytime, brother. Any Wednesday. I know it's late for you, or I don't know what it is, but come through any Wednesday. Team No Sleep. You have an open door invitation, brother. We appreciate you.
As long as I prepare and get some sleep the night before, I'll come through, bro.
Well,
I'm not going to
just had your show before this, right? Because you were on Whiteout World before this, so
yeah. But I'm not just going to pop up on you. I'll let you know when I'm coming on.
Well,
but I appreciate the invitation. I really do. And Alan, I just met you, bro. But Hicks is my dude. We've developed a relationship over the last few weeks in particular. We met obviously through Keith Pelzer, who is my little brother. I've known Keith all of my life. But whoever's good with Keith is good with me. And Hicks is the dude. He's the dude. So I appreciate you, bro, Hicks. And this is something that's not going to just, you know, be a one-time thing. I got to have you on my show as well.
Sir.
As you know, I came into this agreement with this cigar lounge here in Philadelphia. I'll be doing the Fryar Place, my personal podcast that airs on Fridays at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I will be doing it in the Code, which is the cigar lounge on Delaware Avenue next to Rivers Casino, starting December 1st. That's a Friday. My first guest will be Seth Joyner. My second guest will be Mike Quick. My third guest will be Bernard Hopkins. My fourth guest will be Hollis Thomas. My fifth guest will be Ron Jaworski. And I'm looking to try to get the mayor, the new mayor, the mayor that was elected, the 100th mayor here in Philly, trying to get her in too. But yeah, it's a big deal, man. I've got India. You know who India Delgado is?
Yeah.
She's going to be my tech. She's going to be working the cameras for me.
I love it. She good people, man. I bought this chair off because of her. I called it the Delgado. So yeah, me
really?
and we go. Yeah, this is I'm sitting in the Delgado right here. God,
okay.
So wrap yourself around good people and good things happen. I love it. Montel.
You got some LUTs on them cameras too, don't you? You got some LUTs on them cameras?
Listen, I hooked you up, but I sell these things. Come on now.
You got a LUTs on yours right now. I got a LUTs on mine, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell. I got a little LUTs going on.
We cinematic. We cinematic. We raising the bar. We not just looking regular 30 frames per second. We.
But listen, we humble. You see that,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir. We are. We are.
Yeah.
We humble and we hungry. We humble and we hungry, boy.
Humble and hungry. Yes, sir.
Montel, take us home, brother.
Yeah, like I always say, man, check out on loved ones. You know, we're coming to the holiday season. Check on the people you love, making sure they're all right with this mental health thing. And everyone, please get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. Team No Sleep. We out.
Appreciate y'all.